Welcome to the House of Prayer channel, where we want to encourage you that now is the time to build the house of the Lord. All right, welcome to the House of Prayer channel. This is Isaac. Thanks for joining today. I want to take a minute and talk about the spirit of prayer, and let's look at Romans 8:15. In Romans 8:15, it says that we didn't receive a spirit, again, of bondage to fear, but we received the spirit of adoption, by which we cry out, Abba, Father. And I think that's an interesting distinction, that rather than contrasting fear with love, he contrasts fear with the hearts of children crying out to their Father. And living in fallen creation and the difficulties all around us, that's what we need to endeavor to embrace. We need to make every effort to enter into is the place of crying out to God for the answer. And that can be difficult when our first response often isn't that. So what is it to cultivate a spirit of prayer? It's to cultivate a responsive heart, that as I'm faced with the difficulty of my family or my nation, that I run first to crying out to my Father and not first to every other thing. And so a spirit of prayer is honoring God the way He deserves, and the way we were created to honor Him. That first and foremost, we wouldn't run to our own intellect and our own understanding, and we wouldn't run to our own ways, but we would, as children, run to our Father and cry out for His intervention. So that's a quick definition of a spirit of prayer that I wanted to give. So what are some practicals in terms of developing that in our own heart and in our communities? Well, I want to just plug praying in the Spirit as a main way of cultivating the spirit of prayer in your own life and making room for it in your house of prayer and corporate times as well. A little farther on in Romans 8, after it talks about all creation being subject to futility, and saying that we have the first fruits of creation being restored, and we groan inwardly. It says that the Spirit helps us in our weakness, for we don't know what to pray as we ought, but the Spirit Himself makes intercession for us with groanings that can't be uttered. So it talks about we groan, but it says the Spirit partners with those groans. So we have a longing. We see broken things around us, and we have a longing because of being renewed in our spirit. But it's not just our longing. We partner with the Holy Spirit's longing. And we don't just partner with the Holy Spirit's longing. It says in verse 27, now He who searches the hearts knows the mind of the Spirit, and He makes intercession for the saints according to the will of God. That Jesus Himself is the most in tune with what the Holy Spirit's saying, and He's making intercession. So we're groaning, creation's groaning, the Holy Spirit's making groanings within us, and we're partnering with Jesus in His groaning. So this is a really powerful place, and just like I think it hints at in that place, that there's that not knowing how to pray as we ought, and that need to partner with the Holy Spirit in learning to pray. Now, I think that happens in a few different ways. I think the Lord gives insight into what the burden of His heart is, and we're able to pray with understanding and know specifically what we're praying. But I think there's also times where it really is just that groaning for God break in, that groaning for something needs to happen. And a practical way to enter into that is with your personal prayer language, and just praying in the Spirit. So I would encourage any individual, take a time every day, whether half an hour, 15 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, and just pray in the Spirit. Paul was proud of himself that he prayed in the Spirit more than anybody else. One other thing that you can do, I'll say two other things, is corporately have times that certain groups will call them rumbling in the Spirit, where you come together and just everybody's being loud and praying in the Spirit. And I think that's an encouraging way. You kind of get lost in the noise. You're not too worried if other people are hearing you because everybody's being a little bit loud. And whoever the leaders are should kind of be the loudest so that people feel more free to press in as well. And then also just, we'll talk more about the harp and bowl model in the future, but there's a part of the harp and bowl model after singing worship songs where you want to have a time of spontaneous singing. And that's a time to really engage in praying in the Spirit and singing in the Spirit. And I think that's a great time during intercession prayer times to just spend time stirring up and connecting with the groanings of your spirit and the Spirit of God, and really coming into that place of crying out to your Father. So it's pretty brief, but I hope your takeaways are that your identity as a son, as we enter into our identity as sons and daughters, that the natural thing that we'll do is we'll cry out to our Father. And that we don't have to cry out alone. We get to cry out in partnership with the Holy Spirit that actually knows how to pray, and with Jesus that's forever making intercession. And that He's given us a mechanism or a tool or a modality of doing that. And that is praying with our understanding, but it's also praying in the Spirit, and that gift of tongues on a personal level, on a devotional level, is what I believe that I believe that is given for that purpose of entering into that.